Hello and welcome to one of the most famous racing circuits on the planet. We're at the Nordschleife of the Nürburgring for a combined race weekend, the World Touring Car Championship and the European Touring Car Cup sharing the track for the first time as we head into an hour of open qualifying, ready to take on the Green Hell, one of the most demanding 16 miles of tarmac anywhere in the planet. Hello everybody, down in the pit lane, Alex Le Guy. High above the grandstands, Martin Haven and Richard Coleman, the MD of Bamboo Engineering. And Richard, a very different track, a very demanding track for the drivers, and this is a completely different way of going qualifying, so the teams have to have a completely different mindset as well, and this is about reaction rather than having a solid plan.
Absolutely. This circuit is incredibly unique. There's nothing like this in the world, particularly in modern motorsport. And yeah, it's much more like a rally stage than a racetrack. And because the circuit here is some 25 kilometres long, it really does change the mentality of how you go into qualifying.
Well, one of the things is that we've got a wide open hour of qualifying in which you can set your time whenever you want, beginning, middle or end. We don't have Q1 elimination, Q2 elimination and Q3 top 5 runoff, so that's all gone out of the window. We will still have the manufacturer's time trial, Mach 3 against the clock, with all 3 teams on track at the same time, not starting 9 abreast, you understand, but at 3.5-minute intervals, so they're a distance apart. So that part will still take place. It'll be a single flying lap, or a single standing start lap, rather than 2, as would be normally the case. But it's an awfully wide variety of different ways you can approach qualifying, and what we might see as the clouds have built over the lunch break on what started out as a wet track under bright sunny conditions, it's now a dry track with perhaps the threat of rain in the background. In an hour or so, this could be a very, very different place. Looking here at Sabine Schmidt, she's the queen of the ring. Family owns a hotel at Adenau. She was born and bred within earshot of the track. Mind you, there's lots of villages, you can say that around here. But she has yet to complete even one lap of the Nordschleife in her Munich Motorsport Chevrolet. She didn't make a lap in first free practice and crashed in second free practice out on the Nordschleife at Arenberg. So not far at all, in fact, from home for her, just before Adenauer. Rob Huff has had crashes in both free practice sessions as well. Big shunt last night. Seems a steering arm broke, and this was the result. And then had a less damaging and rather more minor, but still embarrassing off on the Grand Prix loop this morning in the wet free practice. But that was the one that did the damage to the car, Richard. We've just learned, this is this morning, so we just learned that after that crash last night that destroyed the engine, Rob's also been handed a penalty for an engine change, which seems extravagantly and unnecessarily tough a penalty, because they didn't change the engine because it wasn't performing or Rob had over-revved it. They changed the engine because it was smashed to bits by the barriers.
Yeah, so it would seem on the outside. I mean, obviously the stewards will have all the evidence in front of them, but from the outside it does seem a very, very harsh penalty. And Rob's really not having a good weekend. Two offs already this weekend in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
It's not a great weekend for him. And of course, the backstory at the moment is that the Honda has some irregularities with its floor and has been excluded from the previous 2 rounds. That's now in arbitration and the team's appealed. But yeah, big headaches down at Honda this weekend. Yeah,
really tough. And of course, the car that set the pace last year was the Citroën. Big Honda, big headaches at Honda, big headaches at Volvo as well. Neither Fredrik Ekblom nor Ted Bjork even ventured out onto the Nordschleife today. You can just go around the Grand Prix circuit here, and that's what they did, trying to find some wet weather traction from the Volvo. The hour of qualifying gets underway at the Nordschleife. We're at the Nürburgring for the FIA World Touring Car Championship, and there is a tacit gentleman's agreement here. You can see cars in the pit lane. Those are cars from the European Touring Car Championship, and they're going to follow the World Touring Car cars out on track, or in some cases dive in between them. And the deal is everybody's going to go out and essentially set one banker lap in the dry, in the warm conditions, and then the gentleman's agreement runs that the World Touring cars will then park, and the next 20 odd minutes or so will be for the ETC cars to do their qualifying, and then once we get to the half-hour mark, they will come off the track and the World Touring cars will go out. Of course, if there's a threat of weather in the air, only the bravest and foolhardiest would sit on one banker lap and then not bother going out again when it was dry. So, and there is a threat of weather in the air because we're at the Nürburgring, same as at Spa. It doesn't matter what sunny day it is, you can never guarantee there's not rain over the hill. And so I imagine we might see the touring cars do a banker lap, then come back in, change tyres, and maybe go straight back out again.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how tactics play out. And like you were saying earlier, Martin, although Sabine Schmitz hasn't had much luck round here this weekend, she probably knows the circuit better than anybody on the field. She just doesn't have the intimate knowledge of the car that she's driving, but hopefully she can overcome that with her experience.
Well, you can see already Ugo Valenti looking to get in front of other traffic. Nicky Katzberg too, jumping up the queue. He wants to get in behind the Citroens, who won't be holding up the larder. In fact, he would like to, that's Jose Maria Lopez in front of him. He would like to get in front of him. Now, Fredrik Ekblom and Ted Björk in the Volvos haven't been out on the track in the wet to dry session today, the first free practice session. Nicky Katzberg behind Lopez and Muller. And they go right around, this is the normal Grand Prix track. So this is the cut-through loop. And if you turned left there, you would have gone out onto the Nordschleife. Now what's happening, of course, is there are still some ETC cars coming out of the pit lane. So crossing the line here under the green flag, this is potentially the start of a Nordschleife lap. So a full lap of the Gesamtstrecke, the entire complete track. And look at the bunch of cars in front. So if you're the two Citroens on the Grand Prix loop, you've got to hope that everybody here gets the heck out of the way, comes around to start their flying lap before you come from the Dunlop hairpin, charging up the hill and trying to set a quick one. Well, Ted Björk, Fredrik Ekblom heading out. Ekblom had an engine failure last night. I'm not sure. See, now that's a question I meant to ask, whether they changed the unit or fixed it. It didn't have the clouds of billowing white smoke that would indicate a turbo failure. It sounded from the onboard very much as though it was something more fundamental, like it had dropped a valve or broken a rocker or something. It sounded like it was down to 3 cylinders, which is not a good noise on a 4-cylinder engine ever.
Now, of course, that Volvo in its first year of competition, so still ironing out some of the reliability issues you'd expect early on in the programme, but I think they're more disappointed to have had the same problem twice.
Yeah. And it may be a batch control issue with some parts, or it may be a fundamental design flaw with some parts. And if it's the latter, then that's trouble. Using the slightly more open motorcycle version of the Vidal chicane, and then instead of going round on the Grand Prix circuit, here we go onto the Nordschleife. And you can see there's another pit lane there. When they do the VLN races, the normal Nordschleife races, they don't use the modern pit lane here. You can use the pit lane and just restrict yourself to the Nordschleife without using the modern Grand Prix circuit at all. So Jose Maria Lopez first out, and fastest lap this morning was a 3-minute 44, and fastest lap yesterday rather was the 3-minute 44. I don't think we quite got that quick today. Qualifying record, not 3 minutes, 8 minutes. 8-minute 37 is the qualifying record, but you can see immediately Lopez is absolutely flying, really throwing the car at this track while it's dry.
And to give those viewers who aren't that au fait with the Nürburgring a sort of clue as to how qualifying works out, it's the equivalent of these drivers doing sort of 5 laps of a conventional circuit. But of course, each and every corner is different, and the challenges that go with that too.
So sweeping out around the Kiddelbacher Höhe, just around the village of Kiddelbach to the driver's right, then coming up to the famous Flugplatz. You can see that little sort of bald patch just over the brow. That's where the wheels touch down again and everything snatches, the transmission grabs down to Arenberg. Identifiable is the only corner on the entire 25.28 kilometres that's got a gravel trap. At least the only part that's not on the modern Grand Prix circuit. Then sweeping down here to the Foxhole Fuchsruhe. This is where Rob Huff crashed yesterday. Just at the top of the rise here, his car went straight on into the barriers, and as you can see, that's about a 150 mile an hour corner just before you get on the brakes for for the little wriggles that then lead you from Verseifen rather, down towards the dip at Adenau. Another of the villages you drop down through Adenauer Forest and over the bridge that goes over the main road. So this looks flat here from the camera, doesn't it? It's a very steep drop down into Adenau. And it's some monumental elevation changes here. Adenau down nearly the lowest part of the circuit. And here is Norby, he's a little further back. That is exiting the Hatzenbach and Hocheichen section of the track. As you can see, one of the features here, like any stage on the Giro d'Italia or Tour de France, is the fans love to write messages on the track. In fact, the World Touring Car drivers were encouraged to do so down on the Dottinger Höhe, the final straight. And the cameras give you a very good view indeed, not only of why this track got the name the Green Hell. There's the bridge at Adenau, and you can see some of the huge campsites around. So you can see just what a wooded area it is in this volcanic mountain region, the Eifel Mountains, but also some of the huge spectator camping areas.
Such a social event this is. It's very similar to Le Mans. So many spectators here, and they're all camping and got all kinds of different things going on in and around the circuit. And because the circuit is so big, and like you said earlier, Martin, it encompasses 3 or 4 villages. It's that big. It's such a huge, expansive area that all these campsites and pop-up beer tents and whatever else are throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, the only longer racetrack on the planet is the mountain course on the Isle of Man. And as you'll understand, that's not a car racing circuit. Dear Lord, no. You have to be mad enough to ride it on a motorcycle. I think racing drivers have got too much imagination to try and race cars around there. Although Pro Driver out there at the moment with the Subaru WRX trying to set an all-time 4-wheel record. I don't think Tony Pond in a Rover Vitesse is still the record holder, but he was at one stage. I think Mark Higgins might be, actually. I think that was another Subaru lap. Lopez and Muller in close company, dropping down into one of the absolute signature corners on the planet, the Carousel. That concrete bowl there, which was laid down in 1925 when the track was built, and it must have been all concrete in those days, I imagine. It's the only remaining bit of concrete with Jose Maria Lopez then, so coming up to Hohe Acht. This is one of the really fast, very quick, bouncy, dangerous parts of the track from Hohe Acht through to Flansgarten. Looking down on Hungary's Norbert Michelisz. And Norby on split times behind Lopez and Muller, but currently on aggregate time, 3rd fastest. You see Lopez total time at the end of sector 3 of 5, a 4-minute 37.7, and Norby just under 2 seconds behind. And on any other racetrack, 2 seconds would be, okay, park it, forget it, there's something wrong with the car or the driver. Here, it's actually still quite close to the Citroens. And again, you can hear the car, the tyres squeaking. That's the final jump. It's not the final jump, that was Brunchen. And Lopez working really hard. This is proper, serious tightening of the seatbelts. Every qualifying run is, but here you give them that extra cinch up tight, because this is where if things go wrong, Richard, things go wrong very, very fast.
Yeah, without sort of over-dramatising it, it's one of the few circuits in the world you can still seriously hurt yourself on. There's very little runoff here. It's very old school in terms of although they have done a lot to safeten the circuit in recent years, it's still very, very dangerous.
Out of the mini carousel, that's the exit part of the double left-hander at Schwabenschwanz. Swallowtail pair of corners. And then these 2 right-handers, this never-ending right-hander that brings you out onto Dottinger Höhe, which is the Autobahn section here. Just look how long and open and wide this is. He's on the limiter now, in top gear, in the same way that you would be if we were on the Mulsanne straight pre-chicanes. He'll be sitting there on the limiter at maximum RPM for something like a minute down towards the end of the lap. And then there's a pair of switchbacks that undulate as well, drop away in between the apices. Here, road drops down. So little bump there, crest the rise, drops down between those two and these two. Really twisty, difficult, nasty, nadgery sting in the tail right at the very end of the lap, and then bursting out onto the Grand Prix loop, and he'll cross the line now to complete his first flying lap. He's the only one to do so, which means he's fastest with an 8:43.2. Muller behind him goes second, 8:44.1. And then Nicky Katzberg, Gabriele Tarquini, Ugo Valente rather behind him. Katzberg third, Norbert Michelis seventh on the split times. He was up early on, wasn't he? Ugo Valente has been deposed by Tom Chilton, who goes, no, Katzberg third. Has Chilton completed the lap yet? Here comes Norby.
Yeah, Chilton's actually having a really strong weekend. He's been very, very prominent in all of the practice sessions.
And Norby goes third. So now you have two options now. You can continue around the Grand Prix loop and then turn left out onto the Nordschleife and have another go. Or you can go around the Grand Prix loop, into the back, into the pit lane, make a setup change, maybe go for a fresh set of tyres and go for another in your own time. We'll have to wait and see. We are at pit in, or looking over pit in, so we'll wait and see who comes in. Meanwhile, Sabine Schmitz on her way around the circuit. She is out of timing sector 3, so she's got further than at any stage so far in free practice. She has not done a free practice lap. And on board with Chevrolet driver Tom Coronel. Coronel has gone 6th quickest. He's one of 4 drivers in the field racing in the 24 hours.
Yeah, he's either having a cool down lap to come back into the pits, or he's going to switch round the GP loop and start the timing loop again for another full lap.
He might be just collecting his thoughts. Sabine Schmitz. Look at the focus, and she's caught one of the ETC Cup cars, so she goes flying by, and that looked like Andreas Rinker. Rinker's is a blue Peugeot, so that may have been one of the new Peugeot 308s. And this is going to be a drama in a slower corner, but here on the Dottinger Her, she will just breeze by them as you would do on the Autobahn. Watch your mirrors. Fiesta pulling out there to go by a Peugeot, but she had plenty of room. And how is she looking in terms of sector times? 3:21 third sector. Fast third sector is a 3:14. So this is going to be some way away. She said last year after her first time out in the World Touring Cars just what an unbelievably difficult machine it is to drive around here, and she has driven some seriously quick kit around this track over the years. She knows it as well as you know the route from your bed to the bedroom door, Richard, and you know, you can't find a driver with more knowledge of the track. But it's the car that is the killer for her.
Yeah, absolutely. It also illustrates, I think, just how niche World Touring Car is really in terms of touring car racing in general. It's not something that everybody can just adapt to, and that's why some of the big names like Ivan Muller, Gabriele Tarquini, they're older guys, and they're still up there.
Xenia Nix has gone off, and that is the end of the Brunchen section, or is this? Oh no, that's the final couple of corners, isn't it? Whoa! Right, that's the end of her qualifying session. That is a big shunt, and that might be the end of her engine, actually.
Yeah, there's not as much crash structure on those smaller Super 1600 cars,
No,
so they tend to damage quite heavily. Marshall's doing an exceptional job here. A lot of snatch vehicles around. It's not like a modern circuit where you can have cranes and recovery vehicles at every corner, but the Marshalls here do a very, very good job.
Well, they'll start something around 160 cars in the 24-hour race, which runs, as the name would suggest, through the night, through all sorts of weathers. So they have plenty of practice. It's like doing support races at Monaco. You have plenty of practice in craning cars out of the way, don't you? And they are exceptionally good, as you say, at getting things out of the way. Well, all the World Touring cars are in the pit lane now, apart from John Philippi and Sabine Schmitz, who have just completed their laps. So the first flurry has been done. Lopez, Muller, Michelitz, Katzberg, Chilton and Coronel, the top half dozen. Well, we will still finish qualifying with the drivers from 11th on down sealed into those positions for both races here. The opening race and the main race will both be 3-lap affairs of the Nürburgring. The top 10 will be inverted as per. So at the moment, were nothing to change, and that's unlikely, at the moment, for our opening race, we'd have a Volvo 1-2 on the grid, for which everybody would be praying that it was not wet, because the Volvos here have struggled with wheel spin in an unbelievable manner in the wet, and they will be praying it doesn't rain any further either.
Volvo just seems so traction limited in any wet weather conditions. I mean, they're wheel spinning in 4th, 5th gear in Marrakesh only a few weeks ago in the rain. And,
it didn't seem so bad at more speed in Paul Ricard, but that's a very different track to this and to Marrakesh. Let's hear from Nicky Katzberg, 4th fastest.
Just grabbing Nicky Katzberg. You jumped out the car. You look very, very hot. You've got some super laps then?
Yeah, it's not bad at the moment. The car is quite strong. I think I guess there's 2 seconds in it, so I'm going to try to improve. We have like a 10-15 minute break now, and then I'll try to go again.
How much has the track changed? What are the conditions like out there at the moment?
Conditions are perfect. The track is completely dry, it's clean, and it's the green heaven at the moment.
Nice. And how different then to a normal track?
Yeah, it's completely different. It's for me, it's my #1 track. It's my favorite track. There's so many fast corners, a lot of jumping around, and it's just a mega thrill.
Love it. Thanks, Nicky.
The green heaven. Well, he's certainly feeling no pain so far this weekend. He's one of the 4 drivers in the 24 hours. His 24-hour race. His car going very well indeed. They go into the top 30 qualifying period later on this afternoon for the Nürburgring 24-hour race. So he will be joined in the field by Rob Huff, whose car the team, after free practice 2, when Rob turned up to the team, they said, OK, Rob, just whatever you do, don't crash it, all right?
I'm still the machine throwing with the brakes. I cannot handle it, it's just unpredictable.
So despite Pachito being fastest, he's not that happy with his car at the moment. They're putting a bit more wing on, perhaps make the car a bit more stable in the high speed.
Well, look, you know, the first corners we saw as he went onto the Hatzenbach, onto the Grand Prix loop, the thing was sliding all over the place at the back end. I know you need it pointy, I know you need it to rotate and to help you preserve the tyres, but there are places here where you actually want it to be planted, and as Nicky said, there are a lot of very fast sections here.
Yeah, and I think from what Pachito was just saying on the radio there is it's more the inconsistency, and you know, I think it's okay if the car is a bit oversteery, but it needs to be progressive. And from the sounds of it, it's a bit snatchy and unpredictable, and that's when you can end up way offline and risk an accident.
Well, the problem is the tail can drag the rest of the car into trouble that the driver had already circumvented. So, yeah, that's a bit of an issue for them. So the first lap done. This was always likely to be the way to do it with the World Touring cars. Get out, have a bit of a think, have a bit of a change. You've got a full hour, as long as it doesn't rain, to go out and do a second run and maybe even a third run. Let's see what Honda and Rob Huff have to say.
High-speed balance is quite good on the new tyre. Still a little bit of understeer on the exits, but on the whole, not too bad.
So it sounds like the Civic Type R is behaving slightly in the opposite manner. Pachito too much oversteer on the way in, Rob too much understeer on the way out. Again, either of those can lead you into a little bit of trouble. At least understeer on the way out, you've mainly got out of the corner. Rob Huff, we hear, has been handed an engine penalty for having to change the engine after a big crash yesterday. So yeah, his weekend is going from bad to worse, and you sort of wonder how much worse it can actually get.
Yeah, he's really struggling, and like we said earlier, there's a few things going on in the background as well at Honda, which won't help matters either. And yeah, just even more depressing news for all those mechanics who haven't been to bed. I mean,
No.
they've literally been at the circuit all day yesterday, worked on repairing Rob's car overnight, and by the time they finished it at 6:30, we're out again at 8, so there's no hotel to go back to.
No, so feeling the pace, and a nice hot afternoon when you're already clammy and gritty-eyed and feeling really ground down. What they really don't need now is for a late night tonight.
And they would have had a bit of a rush
Alex is down in the pit lane with Rob's teammate Norbert Mikulits. The Hungarian's another man who really likes this track.
So having a little quick word with you, Norby. I know that you're busy looking at statistics. You're the fastest of the 3 Hondas at the moment, and you're setting a fantastic time. What's it like out there? What are you learning?
For me, the track was a bit green, so front grip from the front wasn't there. I struggled with understeer, but I guess seeing the lap times, it was the same problems for all of us. So I think that we will improve this lap time. Also now WTCC cars are running, and I think they will a bit clean the track, put some rubber on. So I expect us to be below 40 at the end.
Good stuff. And on the whole, you're feeling pretty positive then?
Sorry. Again, there is someone
I
on
know
the
you've got a lot going on in your ear as well.
Yeah, there is the confidence. The car balance was okay. Was the question this?
How positive are you feeling?
Yeah, it's always exciting to be here. I mean, I feel confident within the car. So yeah, let's see. Aim is to be within the top 3.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
It's kind of motor racing's bungee jumping, isn't it? Terrifying and exhilarating all in the same thing, and yeah, you also have to control the bungee, which is something you don't normally have to worry about. There you can see Norby working hard around this circuit, and there are so many different nature's a corner, radius is a corner. There's not a single constant radius corner here once you get off the Grand Prix loop. Everything bumps and rises and drops and dips and rolls away from you, rolls towards you. It's just the most remarkable variety. Like you said earlier, like a rally stage, every single corner is different, and particularly here, even in a race, you know, it's nearly 10 minutes since you last saw the corner. Anything could have happened in that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jose Maria Lopez fastest at the moment as the World Touring Cars wait for the track to empty of European Touring Car Cup machinery. Now that's Uli Kraft, one of the front runners in the Super 1600 Fiestas. And she got that wrong a long way before the barrier. And again, this is the Wippermann-Brunchen section. This is a really hard section. It's so fast. This is flat out in top gear, and it twists and turns and dips and dives really dramatically. One of the most common places to crash. Well, let's catch up with Volvo. Alex is with Ted Björk.
Currently sitting in P10. Ted, that would be quite a nice place to stay, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be great to stay there and get a pole position for the race then. But I think people will go a lot quicker, and this was the first lap in qualifying, and I hope I also can go quicker.
It looked like you got quite a nice tow out there from Thiago.
Yeah, and when you start the lap behind someone, and Thiago, it was my place, and I thought I tried to learn something from him on the first lap, and I just stick there behind him, and I was happy to be able to keep up actually, and then I got a really good tow. So, but I think he will be faster next time.
I know that I spoke to Fred yesterday. I know that he's won here before, and he's raced maybe 4 times here before. What's your history here?
I raced here two 24-hour races, and then I done a lot of normal street car driving here. But it was 10 years ago I was racing here. So it gets a new experiences when coming with this new car again. But I feel really great on the track, but it's still a lot of work to do.
And the conditions are changing constantly, aren't they?
Yeah, but this is amazing. I'm so happy for the sunshine and just be able to drive the track on sun. It's great.
It's great to have you here.
Well, so both Volvo drivers with more experience than their touring car history would leave you to believe, because as Alex said, Freddie Ekbrom's raced here 4 times in 24-hour races, and Ted's done a couple. So, and lots of street driving. I mean, and that's one of the things, you know, about this track. nobody lets you drive your road car around the Monaco Grand Prix circuit as a Grand Prix circuit, or Silverstone, or Spa, or anywhere, but you can rock up here almost any day of the week, pay your little, I don't know, whatever it is now, €12 toll, and take any car you like from the Batmobile to your rent-a-car, although that's not advised, out onto the Nordschleife and experience exactly the track these guys are driving on. Sabine Schmitz in the white, black and red Munich Motorsport Chevrolet. And the queen of the ring and the queen of the pit lane. Alex is going to try and grab a quick word with Top Gear's latest woman driver, Sabine Schmitz.
Going to try and catch a quick word with you, queen of the ring. What's it like out there?
Yeah, it's very nice. So I'm very happy with the car. I think it made a big step from last year to this year, and I hope I can keep up a little bit with the guys.
When I spoke to you yesterday, you said that last year, obviously, getting to know these cars are difficult to drive, aren't they, for anybody? Yeah. I mean, you have more history, more experience here than probably any of our drivers. So how different is the car and the circuit from last year? How different is the competition for you?
Yeah, the Quillbacher Höhe, they made a big change, so it's much, much quicker. I wouldn't say safer quick, but it's really quicker, maybe close to be flat, even in our Porsche. But I think the car is now easier to handle like last year. But it has all the time a little bit of a wet setup, so it has to be very soft that the front tires get some grip, you know.
What's it like to be back in the World Touring Car Championship?
Oh, it's great. I really love it. The guys are so nice and we have a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you, Sabine.
Well, Sabine, one of the key presenters. In fact, we've got two racing here this weekend because Chris Harris, another British car tester and journalist who a lot of you probably are aware of from his driven YouTube clips, he's racing here in the 24-hour race, as is Sabine. And Sabine, as last year, driving Rennie Munich's All-Inkle Motorsport Chevrolet. As she said, cars running very, very different. I mean, diametric opposite. A near 600 horsepower Porsche she'll be racing in the main event. Stiff as you like at the front, soft at the back to really benefit from that rear engine traction. And exactly the opposite here. Stiff and twitchy at the back, where normally she'd have lots of grip. And at the front, a soft, mushy front that doesn't want to turn in the way that she expects a car to turn in. So it's kind of like reversing everything that she expects from a car.
Yeah, with a GT car, very soft and compliant, but a lot of aerodynamic grip. With a touring car, you're very restricted.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a strategy talk, and we're going to leave it a couple of minutes after the 30 mark. We're going to go with 26 minutes to go. Still has loads of time for 2 runs and a change in between. All ladders are going to go at the same time. Are you okay to be at the front because you're faster?
Dave
Yes.
Scott, Nick's engineer.
Are you okay to go at the front? Yes. I don't think. Right now, Nicky is feeling no pain at all this weekend. He is just living the dream. In fact, we just on the way up to the booth earlier on bumped into another former Lada driver, Jaap van Lagen, who's also here racing in the 24-hour race, having a good time. And so is Tom Coronel, and Alex is with him.
You had a bit of a tricky start yesterday, Tommy, but up into P6 at the moment. Seems quite positive.
Yeah, I think it's going better than we had expected, especially on the dry. I know in the wet we're doing quite well. On the dry with the Chevrolet, I believe we were something like 3 seconds behind. That's a reasonable pace in our condition. I know the track very well. I do a lot of VLN races here and 24-hour races, so no, I feel comfortable. It's going better than we had expected.
Even today, it's about knowing the track. Even today, I assume you've been out for the 24-hour quali as well.
Well, I didn't go out. My teammate had a big crash with the car, so that was a pity. But for sure, the 24-hour is a long race, so we'll be out. It's nice. It's the Nismo GTR. Really exciting when you go with that machine over the Nordschleife. But first, we still have to do one more outing with this one. I mean, we need to be P9 or P10, and it's all very close. So it's only 2/10 from P4, but I feel okay. I feel okay.
So that's your strategy. I mean, I think there are probably going to be quite a few of you going for P10.
Yeah, I think everybody is excited for the swapped grid. We know that the Citroën is 1-2. But you know, you cannot calculate P10. I'll just maximize anything and I see where I end up.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Well, like in the 24-hour race, the secret in the race is for the World Touring Car Championship here, even though it's only 3 laps, Richard Coleman, it's still the same rule that applies. You can get caught up in somebody else's accident without even thinking twice about it. You know, first you've got to beat the racetrack, same as at Le Mans.
Yeah, absolutely. You have one car go off ahead of you. You've very often got nowhere to go around here whatsoever. Just very little runoff, and in some cases it's just one line through a corner. Very, very easy to get collected into something. It's not like conventional racing, like in this section the camera's on now, where there's a bit of room through the green hell. Sometimes you've got no choice.
Yeah, we think of Jinquan Ma having his big off last year, got a big slide going into Citroën, couldn't catch it, rattled off a couple of barriers, and mercifully everybody sort of bomb burst around him and nobody got caught up in it, but the chances of that happening twice are very slender indeed. And still, that's Uli Kraft's car. They've recovered it now, the Ravenol Motorsport Fiesta, but that is the side of the track. And that is in the, that's in timing sector 4, so that is between Wippermann and Brunchen, I think. Just a rundown from Wippermann. So, medical car is on its way, and that looks like her up on the left-hand side. You can see the doctor there, and I think that's Uli Kraft. It looks like she's getting a little bit of oxygen, so I mean, we saw the impact. That, I'm not surprised, has probably knocked the wind out of her sails. And so they're just going to make sure she's stable and happy. It went in backwards, but nevertheless, it's a big old impact there. So I hear, yeah, Hoat, so not too far out of the carousel.
So hopefully she's just winded or something very minor. But
well, he's got a neck brace on her, so in fact that's what it was, not an oxygen mask. So he's got a neck brace on her, so yeah, you know, you're going backwards, even in these high wing seats, even with a hands device on, you know, the car is still stopping from a lot of speed in a very short distance.
Yeah, absolutely. And also when you're going backwards, you're never quite sure when you're going to hit the wall as well. But hopefully this is all just a precaution, and the medical staff do an excellent job here.
Yeah, exactly, and for all the same reasons, they have lots of drivers to look after in the 24-hour race weekend, not just ours and the European touring cars and the World Touring cars. They've got other support races here, and of course, with 175 odd cars with 4 drivers each, you do the arithmetic to the number of people that might potentially be looking for a bit of medical assistance over the weekend. So lots and lots of doctors and medical staff, lots of intervention vehicles as well. Audi supplies 16 cars alone as fast response units, and that's in addition to all the vehicles that are regularly here day in, day out, week in, week out at the Nürburgring. Because this isn't just a sort of high days and holidays racetrack. This is an industry test facility that is open pretty much 24/7, 365. There are not many days when there's not somebody driving at speed on the Nordschleife, and there's a lot of racing going on away from the 24-hour race, the Grand Prix and so on.
We still have about 5 minutes to leave the box. If we leave the box after 6 or 7 minutes, we won't be able to do a third run.
Okay, so the plan has been backed up, as so often happens, by circumstance, and the circumstance is that we've got code 60 flags out, which means a maximum speed of 60 kilometers an hour past the slow zone, where we've got Uli Kraft receiving medical attention. Then when the doctor considers she's ready to be moved, they'll put her in the ambulance and take her on her way, and that will take a little bit of time. They don't do the entire lap. They will pull off just by, well, you can pull off at Hoat or at Brunchen. There's lots of places you can pull off the circuit and go out onto the public road that surrounds the track, and then they will take her to the medical centre here. Meanwhile, Jose Maria Lopez fastest from teammate Ivan Muller, Norbert Michaelis third, the best of the Hondas, then the best of Lada's Nicky Katzberg fourth, ahead of Tom Chilton. Incidentally, we understand that in the Mach 3, Mehdi Benani is still the nominated driver for Citroën. That'll be Mehdi Benani, who's 13th, 8 seconds off the pace, as opposed to Tom Chilton, who's 5th, 2.7 seconds off the pace. That rather looks like an open goal for the other two manufacturers, if that is the case. However, as with everything here at the Nordschleife again, just underline that Plan A is not always going to be the plan that you end up with. So she is now stable and stretchered, and red flags are out. So the session has been stopped. None of the World Touring cars are out on track, but there are still European Touring Car Cup machines going around. Somebody's just gone across the line in front of us. So any that are currently on track will come back to the paddock.
I wonder if they'll stop the clock at the moment.
Yes, no, they haven't. Well, they haven't because we're not the big show.
No, exactly, and there's a very, very tight timetable here, so they probably don't have the luxury of even considering that. But
no, there is a massive array. So and again, you know, this is why it was so vital, as with always, to get your banker lap in, because you never know what's going to happen here. Well, let's hear from Tom Chilton. Alex is with him.
Whenever I've spoken to you, Tom, this weekend, you've been very positive, and I imagine that will continue. You're currently sitting in P5.
Sorry, I had to pull out my radio kit because my engineer was trying to talk to me. I'm guessing you said, how did qualify go? So far, I've done one flying lap, which is 25.7 kilometres. Sadly, my teammate made a few mistakes in front of me, and I caught him up a lot in Sector 4, Sector 5. I was within 2 or 3 tenths of Lopez and Muller in the first few sectors, and I got held up by my teammates. So I'm P5 at the moment, which I'm a bit frustrated about because I feel like I should be top 3. There's currently a red flag because someone's had a big old crash. I hope they're okay, and hopefully we can go back out there and I can try and go back up the order a bit.
How different does the car feel to yesterday?
To be honest, the car feels a similar balance. It hasn't changed much. I was expecting after the rain this morning for the car to have a shift in balance, and it's actually stayed exactly the same, which is quite handy. The mechanics are happy. They don't have to make 100 setup changes, so it's good. Thanks.
Well, as we said, Mehdi Banani down in 13th place, so he obviously caught Mehdi towards the end of the lap, and that has held him up a little bit. There are so few places that you can pass really even quite a relatively slow car, never mind compared to one that is going almost as quick as you. And there you can see the intervention team working with Uli Kraft. Red flag out on the Nürburgring, qualifying interrupted, but the clock is still running, and we've already heard the teams rescinding plan A, which was to go out, do a run, come back in and do another run. They're now saying to the drivers there will be time if we go green to do one run and no more. So if you've got something, now is the time to produce it. So Uli Kraft in the ambulance with the medical team, and I'm sure it is entirely precautionary, but any crash here at the Nürburgring, there are very few places you're going to come off here where you're going slowly. So it's a big old crash. And that is Horacht, all that section after the carousel, that's quick. And there's no small mistakes to be had, which is why you can see always so many fans camp there, because it's such a dramatic part of the track to go and spectate at.
We're just approaching the sort of time on the clock where the drivers will start be looking at one flying lap if we're not careful. Another couple of minutes and they'll be down to the one.
Well, let's hear what Rob Huff has to say. Alex is down there.
It sounds like the session's just about to start again. I know that you're in a rush to go back out because I presume you need to do quite a lot.
Yeah, we've still got 2 runs to do. I've just been spoken to my mate here. I think the clock has been stopped, which is good. I got blocked by 2 ETC cars really quite badly. I lost 1 second just on the Grand Prix circuit, so I've got some time to make up, but car felt good. Track's a little bit slippery in places still, but on the whole it's a hell of a ride round here in one of these things. So just been told we've got 24 minutes and 24 seconds left, which is good. We'll get 2 runs in and yeah, hopefully get back up the front.
You say that the car feels good. You've been through the wars quite a lot this weekend. You feel okay?
Yeah, a couple of small accidents. Unfortunately we had a mechanical failure on the car for the really big one yesterday. It was a big hit, but you know, strong Englishman, and we never give up.
This is just a parish notice to all race engineers. When you see Alex and a camera crew sticking their head in the door, please please don't choose that moment to talk to your driver. You've got the rest of the session to do it. Don't wait until he's being interviewed. Message to team ends. That was the incident yesterday from Rob Huff. This from this morning, just got down into turn 1, little lock up, and then that cruised him onto the white lines, onto the AstroTurf, and all the way through the gravel trap, and a little dink into the barriers, substantially less damaging than yesterday, which was a big shunt. But on the embarrassment factor, that was right up there, I'm afraid. And Rob was a bit heartbroken at having made that error. However, it is still dry and bright and sunny here at the Nürburgring. And even as we were hearing from Rob there, the clock, we were notified the clock has been stopped, and in fact it was originally stopped and then set back to 22 minutes 15 of the session to go. It's now been set back to 24 minutes and 44. It was originally 24:24, it's now 24:44. Time is getting longer as we go back. So essentially what they're doing is resetting the clock from when the red flag came out to allow these guys to have a full hour-long session. Now, of course, what will happen is that gradually just about everybody from the European Touring Car Cup will head back into the pits, having completed their red flag lap, or the lap on which they were when the red flags came out, and it can take them up to sort of 8 or 9 minutes to get back in. Let's hear from the Honda team.
Clock has now been reset to 24 minutes.
Yeah, confirmation of that. 20 minutes and 44 seconds was the bit missing at the end of that. And the clock has been restarted. We don't see a green flag at the start-finish line, but on our timing screens, the clock is now counting down from 24:44, and no green flag. So why have we started the clock if we haven't restarted the session?
Are you sure there's no green flag?
I'm looking at the marshal's post where the red flag was. That's the start-finish line. That's where we will see the checkered flag, and there is no green flag being displayed. And since he has withdrawn the red, he is now not showing anything. There are, I can see another marshal's post opposite the pits. There is no flags being shown there. And do we have a green light at pit exit? Well, at some stage the session will restart because the clock has restarted. This is a little bit Fred Carno's army, though, I'm afraid. Session may or may not be getting back underway in the FIA World Touring Car Championship stroke European Touring Car Cup qualifying hour. Cars are heading back out on track. Oh, and the clock has reset itself and has started counting again from 24:44. So there was a little bit of a mixture of communications there between the clock starting and starting again and the session starting. Still not seeing a green flag on the start-finish line, or indeed on any other marshal posts I can see out of my window. However, there is clearly a green light at the end of the pit lane, and since there were all other flags are being withdrawn, presumably then you don't need to show a green, because the session starts again with the assumption that the track is green. So the deal again for all these guys is this is not the beginning of a flying lap, because they have left the pit lane after the timing beam. So they have to come round and cross the start-finish line to start their flying lap. So they go around the Grand Prix loop. That helps you warm the tyres up, warm yourself up, cinch the belts up again, get ready to go. And then when you come out of the shortcut across the top of the Grand Prix loop and start flying down the pit straight, then your lap of the Nordschleife quote begins, because that's the beginning of your flyer.
Yeah, and of course, although we call it the shortcut, all things are relative, because it is in fact a full loop of the Grand Prix circuit.
Oh right, it's the final corner of the Grand Prix circuit. Yes, yeah.
But just to remind everybody, the viewers at home, that it just shows you how huge this circuit is.
Oh, look,
this is less than a fifth, and it's a full Grand Prix track.
Look in the distance. There's the first corner with the green curbs. Now, normally, follow that hard right or left as you're looking at it. Underneath that mass of cars there, which is the World Touring Car paddock and the Audi TT Cup paddock, that's the main Mercedes arena. So that's where the Grand Prix cars would normally go. We're using a shorter little first corner wriggle that they use on DTM and so forth, because that paddock is being used for the support races. So, or that part of the track is being used for support race paddock. So there are a couple of little differences. So it's a very different first corner sequence. Imagine that Mercedes arena had never been built. That's the bit we're using. And then the chicane at the top of the hill, we're using the more open motorcycle version rather than the tighter Grand Prix car racing version of it. Now the cars are coming across the start-finish line. Now there's a green flag. So presumably they didn't wave the green flag when they were coming out of the pit lane. I didn't see marshals waving green flags at them anywhere else, even though they were on.
I think it's got to be in front of the car, so I don't think he's actually got any need to wave it. And
no, but the other marshals posts down at turn 1 and 2 and stuff,
the pit lane
didn't
exit.
see those. Didn't say. Well, there was a green light at the pit lane exit, which is all you need, really. However, taken as read that it's green, and Jose Maria Lopez leads the field. Ivan Muller was second out. Mehdi Benani again went out third in the line ahead of Tom Chilton, and that might not please Chilton much. Surprised Tom didn't sort of push a bit harder to try and get by Mehdi on the first run round the Grand Prix circuit. So flying up towards the top of the hill, and then braking for the left-hander, and this far section. So this is all standard Grand Prix track stuff. Nice low curbs, runoff areas, gravel traps, and climbing through the fast right-hander up to the Vidal chicane. All pretty much standard fare. Deep into the chicane. Oh, this is the second S's. There we go, and then you get to the top of the hill and to the chicane, and then instead of going around the final corner, that was the chicane, instead of going around the final corner, you go hard left, and we're into the Hatzenbach. And immediately you see the track dips and drops away and rises, and the curbs have a very different nature. It's like a ramp at the end of the deck of the Ark Royal. You know, it'll fire you up into the air. You can't ride many of these curbs and expect to survive without visiting the scenery fast.
Instantly you realise just how tame the Grand Prix circuit is in comparison. All these big sharp curbs, no runoff area, no gravel traps. Armco very close to the circuit.
Well, look, you know, we're saying how small it is for a 2-litre touring car. Imagine 1970s Formula 1 cars around here. Big, fat slicks, Cosworth V8s, V12s, Matra V12s, Ferrari V12s. And then in the 80s, they were racing 1,000-kilometre races here in the Group C cars. You know, cars that were touching 225 miles an hour in the Mulsanne Straight were probably doing the same speed down Döttinger Höhe here, and with full ground effect. Imagine hitting a curb on one of those and going from all that ground effect downforce to none in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and that's where the legendary status of this circuit was cemented, and where it earned the nickname Green Hell. Lopez is very much the man to beat. He's probably the man to beat last year in the first running of this event for World Touring Car, and so far this weekend he's been definitely having the legs on his teammate Ivan Muller.
Well, he has the race lap record, 8 minutes 40.68, and we might not go quicker than that in qualifying. The qualifying record, 8:37.3. Looking there at Rob Huff, here we are on board. And as so often, there's almost nowhere here that is flat. I don't mean flat on the throttle, I mean level. You're either climbing or dropping. Dropping down here. And again, there's just a couple of areas where there's a little bit of sort of corrugation inside the curve where you can use it. But again, there's the speed differential. What are they doing through there? Sort of 65 miles an hour, coming down from about 140, 150 at 100 meters earlier. So many places where if you aren't quite sure where you're going, you can run into real trouble. That's why so many of these drivers have done track days here, done VLN races here to learn the circuit, because kind of knowing is more dangerous than not having a clue at all.
And in the modern era, a lot of simulation as well, a lot of simulator driving, although that doesn't work for everybody, and it's sort of been quite well documented that Ivan Muller actually really struggles with simulation, and that's one of the areas that his teammate, the guy we're on board with now, Jose Maria Lopez, has the edge over him, really.
Climbing out of the bridge at Adenau. So out of Adenauer Forest, this is a long climb up the hill. You make an ascent of about 300 meters vertical before you get to Breitscheid at the top of the hill here. It's the fast left that leads up to it, and then big right at Breitscheid. So down at Adenau, one of the lower parts of the track. And it looks so serene from above, doesn't it? You know, the helicopter takes away that impression of speed, and it looks like everything is just nice and smooth and level. It looks so easy when you look at it like this. It's quite ridiculous. And yet when you go back on board with the splitter cam and you see how close he is to the... And again, look how quick it is here. And it's this really tight right. Car drops away on the exit. Starts that roller coaster run down into the carousel. So that was tracking him all the way through Kesselchen. And then the right-hander before the Caracciola carousel up to Hohe-Acht. And we might still see the Fiesta on the left-hand side. Not sure whether that's been moved yet or not. But stop the session. And then they go into the real roller coaster. One of the most signature parts of the circuit here in terms of how it is to drive. Wippermann, Brunchen, Flansgarten. Demanding stuff. Lopez fastest of all in sector 1, 2 and 3 so far. Ivan Muller personal best in sector 1, 2 and 3, but not as quick as his teammate. And looking down on Rob Huff there. Huff was 3 tenths away in sector 3, 4 in sector 2, 7 tenths away in sector 1. That's the Grand Prix loop.
Very difficult to push really hard when you've already had 2 accidents during the weekend around a circuit like this, but that's why he's a former world champion.
Out of the Flansgarten section and rushing off down towards the Schwalbenschwanz mini carousel.
Always makes me wince, that bump.
Yeah.
Just coming into that corner, such a big compression.
And I can imagine at speed just how much it gives you a kick up the backside when the car lands as well.
Just as you're trying to take the line for the corner.
And in a road car, it smooths out so much of this that a racing car just doesn't, even with the greater ride height that they're using here because of corners like the carousel and the mini carousel, because of the curbs that they have to accommodate, because it's not a Grand Prix circuit. So there's the mini carousel. And again, from there you drop down, then you climb, it's another blind brow, and yet that corner leads into the second right. So vital for speed everywhere. Well, Nicky Katzberg, after the first foray, was in 4th place behind Norbert Mittelitz. I think Katzberg has definite top 3 qualifying potential.
Yeah, he's had the legs on his teammates by a long way this weekend. He's, of course, he's got a lot of experience around the circuit from VLN and sports car racing.
Well, and unlike the other two, although he didn't go out in qualifying 2 this morning, he did go out in qualifying 1 yesterday evening in the 24-hour race. So he's had more track time than his 2 teammates had just this weekend alone, and never mind all the rest of the times he's been here. And there are some drivers that really never take to this track, and there are some that just can't get here often enough. And I think Katzberg definitely falls into the second of those categories. Lopez, his first lap was an 8:40, and he's now got 8:38.22, which is
a very, very good lap.
0.9 away from the qualifying record. And he may well continue on for another one. We've got 13.5 minutes. There is time to stop in the pits, put another set of tyres on and go out again.
The nature of this circuit is just so much about confidence. If we look at our timing screen right now, every single driver is setting a personal best.
Yep.
Every single driver, not without exception.
Absolutely. Ivan Muller 2nd, Tom Coronel 3rd, Tom Chilton 4th, Norbert Michelis 5th, Rob Huff 6th, Tiago Montero 7th, Nicky Katzberg yet to come across the line, so he's been bumped from 4th down to 8th place, but he is on a better lap as well.
Off.
And this is in the final sector. It's at the end of Dottinger Höhe, isn't it? He's got out of shape in the really quick swivels at the end into Tiergarten. And Antonius Bucher in these cars, the fast left kink at the end of Dottinger Höhe, is around 165 miles an hour. So that, it always looks like it's waiting to catch somebody out. And there the car was zigging where it needed to zag.
Doesn't show you early enough to see how he dropped it.
It's that kick before you get to the crest that always makes the car really look unsettled. I'm afraid he just didn't get the line right and didn't catch it. Well, and that has put the kibosh on Nicky Katzberg's lap, I'm afraid, because Katzberg has not completed the lap. There he is, he's at speed. Tell him to back off, boys, because he can't go more than 120 kilometres an hour past the scene of his teammate's accident. So at the moment, he is just risking it all for nothing. And in fact, I think that message might just have... No, he's just slowed down to drop into the mini carousel.
Of course, here with a dense forest and the huge distances involved, a lot of the times the teams can't actually contact the driver on the radio just because just can't get the frequency, can't get the range.
Double waved yellows means maximum speed of 120 kilometres an hour here. It's not just lots of danger, it has a specific speed-related meaning. And Katzberg, let's look for the marshal's post. There's one just where you come on at the tourist entry and exit here. On his right, he's doing about 160 miles an hour. He can't see the accident. And you should see double waved yellows there. No flags at that post on the right. Got to be coming soon because he's nearly there. This is the swerves where it all starts to get squirrely and out of shape. Now, hang on a minute. Still double wave yellows. Are they withdrawn? They are withdrawn. Katzberg, does he keep it buried? Is he still going to get a lap out of this? He might do. Still green in sector 4, and this might put him back up into the top 3 or 4. If he didn't see yellow flags there...
No, please, no. It was a good lap.
He goes 6th. He did lift. He saw yellows. Now, he will have gone past the barriers and not known who was off. And that was obviously delayed a little bit further back down. That was just as he was getting to Antonius Booker. We saw in the left-hand kick there was no yellows, but he briefly saw them just as they are being withdrawn.
Yeah, big compound result there for Lada. They've got one car on the wall and badly affects another car that was their best chance of probably a second row start.
Well, at the moment, look who is 9th and 10th. Ted Björk in the Volvo, 9th, and Ugo Valente in 10th position in that damaged Lada. Now, if everybody goes again, that will change, but if they don't get any improvements, Ugo Valente 10th, Ted Björk 9th, could be the front row of our opening race here. Now, don't forget, last year on the Nordschleife, Ugo also started on the front row of the grid. That was in race 2 from the reverse top 10 and didn't make it off the Grand Prix loop.
No, it was race 1 last year, Martin.
Was it race 1?
Qualified on the front row, did an amazing job, and then, yeah, very, very short-lived as he ended up sat in the gravel trap only 2/3 of the way around the Grand Prix loop.
Yeah, well, at the moment, as you look at the new Peugeot 308s of Sebastian Loeb Racing, Peugeot 308 Racing Cup machines, debuting in the European Touring Car Cup. Oh, Hugo had a mobile in the car.
Yeah, it's actually very common here.
That's a rallying trick, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very common. A lot of because there's just no radio communication in the depths of the forest. All the cars are fitted with little kits that generally include mobiles.
Oh, that was in Antonius Booker. That was in the flat left kink, and it sounded like the transmission locked up.
Something broke, yeah. Fortunately, that camera doesn't pick it up early enough.
Not quite early enough. The onboard, though, let's hear that again, because that sounded as though I don't know, as if something seized up in it. It was almost like when you're on the brakes and everything goes silent because you've locked the transmission, but I don't think he would have been on the brakes there. You see the way it's starting to take a weave and then sends him off into the grass.
Yeah, there's
He's a
definitely
passenger there, isn't
like
he?
something broke on the
Yeah.
car. And of course, you know, yesterday's accident was caused by a puncture as well, so unfair to blame Hugo for that too.
Yeah. Is there a faster place on the Nordschleife to have a crash? I'm not sure there is. That's tough. Well, Alex is down in the pit lane. What have the Lada team heard on the radio? Let's hear from Victor Shapovalov.
Well, a bit of a double-edged sword there, Victor. I mean, negatively, of course, that was quite a horrific crash there for Hugo. But positively, if it stays as it is, he could potentially keep P10.
Yeah, we're fighting for P10, this is for sure, but it's happened what happened with Hugo. Difficult track.
It looked like something broke on the car?
Yeah, difficult to say now, so we investigate the situation after the qualifying, but now it is just we saw everything on the pictures and it's it.
The good news is that we did actually just see him on the telephone, so he's obviously okay.
He is okay, yeah. He is okay, because we also see on TV that he is good, yeah.
And then for your other boys, positively, Katzberg obviously, hopefully he kept his lap just then, P6, and Gabrielli also very quick.
Yeah, they continue fighting, so we will see a little bit later the final results. Okay.
It might be a track that Gabrielli quite enjoys, but it's not a track that really does him too many favours. Gabrielli down in 12th position, where he would start both races. Fredrik Ekblom 11th in the Volvo, and as the car will be flatbedded back down the highway next to the track, Ugo Valente, I'm assuming he's on the phone back home. So at the moment in 10th place, and that it's not like you lose the lap because you've had an accident. It was his previous lap that was responsible for that time. So he could end up, as last year, on the front row of the grid for race 1, or the first race here, which will be the opening race. There you can see pictures of him trying to make sure it's in neutral to make it easily towable. So Hugo Valente ready to go back, and Grégoire de Moustier has just come across the line. Looks as though he is going to start a flying lap. So de Moustier breaks first. There's under 5 minutes left on the clock, and it looks as though we might just have enough time for everybody to go out for a final flying lap. Almost the entire pit lane has emptied, and we expect them to go around the Grand Prix loop and then start their final flying lap. There you can see the pit apron, almost no World Touring cars there. Jose Maria Lopez disappears into the distance. He is the last, pretty much, of our World Touring Car entries to leave the pit lane here at the Nürburgring, as everybody goes out with just over 4 minutes on the clock. And they will all come round the Grand Prix loop, start their final flying lap to try and get a third run in. Everybody in the field, barring Hugo Valente there, who was on a second lap when the car got away from him. Something broke under it, it would seem. Nicky Katzberg hasn't gone out yet. A lap at the Grand Prix circuit is going to take about 2 minutes. And so Katzberg is trying to give himself as much clear air as possible. And of course, when he comes out onto the Grand Prix circuit, any cars that are coming by will be going around the Grand Prix circuit, but on a fast lap, whereas he'll be going round to come back to start-finish line and start a fast lap, so he won't necessarily be trying to tangle with them.
I think Katzberg is out of position, and I think probably Michelitz is slightly out of position. I expect those two guys both think that they can go forward.
Yeah. So fast laps are starting. There is Norby. He's already started over the start-finish line, and now as he goes out of corner 1 and 2 and heading off down onto the Grand Prix circuit, chased by Tom Coronel. I think that was Thiago Monteiro behind him. They have all gone out. In fact, that wasn't. I think that was Rob Huff behind him. Thiago has only recently left the pits. Fredrik Ekblom has left the pits. Nicky Katzberg remains on pit road. The only other World Touring Car entry on pit road at the moment is Ferenc Fittja. I'm not sure the Hungarian will go out for a third run. I think with Zoltán Zengo, they're going to say, okay, he's 3.2 seconds behind Sabine Schmitz. He's probably not going to catch the Queen of the Ring on his first ever voyage here, so he might have fractionally more experience of his car than she's got of hers, but that's not going to happen. So for everyone else, climbing from the bottom of the Grand Prix circuit down at the Dunlop hairpin, all the way back up to the Vidal chicane at the top, and then turning hard left onto the Nordschleife itself.
Also going to be interesting to see where Valente ends up. Like we said just a moment ago, he could look into that front row start, but he's got no way of defending himself now, and obviously Tarquini will be keen to get inside the top 10.
Who could go fast? Ekblom was in 10th before, so he could go faster. He's in 11th place.
He's only got to find 7/10, same as Tarquini.
Yeah, Tarquini as well, same position.
And
he
Bernani
could go. And Bernani should, but Bernani's a further 3 seconds back. Actually, there's probably more danger from John Philippi as well than from Mehdi Bernani. Mehdi Bernani doesn't seem to have pace here that he has shown everywhere else, and maybe it's just he's not feeling the car under him the way that he needs to inspire confidence. Tom Coronel rides the curbs. Coronel, incidentally, is looking at an all-Tom Row 2 with Tom Coronel and Tom Chilton. Last year, of course, that would have been all Roal Motorsport. This year, that'll be Roal Motorsport with Tom Coronel and Sebastian Loeb Racing with Tom Chilton. That's just where Cinquamar lost it last year, isn't it? In that fast right, it got away from him and he just kind of pinballed from barrier to barrier for a couple of 100 metres.
Yeah, a lot of cars go very loose there, and like he showed last year, you can have quite a big off there.
Ivan Muller, we're looking down at him as he exits Arenberg, and then flying down through the foxhole. And this is the section where Rob Huff went off. Just coming up here, this is Fuchsruhe, the foxhole, and Rob's car basically went straight at that barrier. And then tighter little section here, and then they start to drop down towards Adenauer Forest.
You never get the feeling that Ivan enjoys this circuit.
I don't think he does.
Just not his style.
I think he just puts up with it because it's something that you have to do. Yes, I just don't think he likes it at all. He never came here when he was, when you're young and stupid and don't see the risks, Now he's got another young family and he's enjoying his life far too much, I think, really to bury himself mentally into the place that you need to be to find extreme speed here. Having said that, there's only one man quicker, and Pachito even admits the fact that this is a scary place to go fast, but he quite likes to go fast here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ivan on a bad day is still world class, but you just don't feel like he's quite in the groove here. You don't feel like he really enjoys it, doesn't relish it like some of the other drivers.
Agreed. Over the bridge at Adenauer, and you can see Lopez and Muller, and there's Ivan starting this long climb up from Adenauer.
You have to say Tom Coronel's doing an outstanding job so far this session. I don't expect him to stay there. I think he's going to drop back.
I don't know. He's got 7/10 over Tom Chilton, which doesn't sound like an awful lot. Let's have a look at the split times. Sector 1, he was up on Chile. Sector 2, 3/10 down on Chile, so net gain for Coronel. Sector 3, half a second ahead of Chile, so at the moment he is hanging on to third spot, because behind them Norby was slower than both, faster than both, and then slower than both in sectors 1, 2 and 3. So net gain at the moment is Coronel stays best of the rest.
Be an outstanding result if he does.
Yeah. Well, he topped the wet timesheets early this morning, didn't he, when the track was streaming wet after hours of heavy rain overnight. Jose Maria Lopez Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Ivan's in front of him on the road. And there's Tom riding his luck and riding the curbs. There's possibly no more than 5 or 6 curbs anywhere on this track, and that's in 26 kilometres, where there is a bit of rumble strip on the outside of the curb, or a bit of pavé blocking, and you just saw 2 of them there in consecutive corners. And Tom's just really committed here. He's not racing in the 24-hour race. He hasn't raced in the 24 hours or VLN. This is just his only appearance here. But he is absolutely flying.
Seems really confident.
Yep.
Really, really confident. And he's been the top performing privateer Citroen all weekend so far.
Third fastest yesterday in free practice 1, which was dry. Dry all the way through. Today's ended dry. And
Lopez just consistently finding half a second, 3/4 of a second in every sector.
yeah, 3 purple sectors so far for Pachito. Checkered flag is waiting for them. Time has elapsed.
Very in the groove, isn't he? You can just see he's so confident with that car.
There's Ivan. This is all or nothing for Ivan Muller. Tom Chilton through sector 4, and quickest of everybody who has completed sector 4 so far, or quicker. In fact, he's the only one on this run, isn't he? Nobody else has done a sector 4 run. So checkered flag, first to the flag will be Tom Chilton then. Here he comes. His qualifying ends here. He may even go top of the pile. What has that lap done for him? 3rd fastest. So not as quick as the 2 factory Citroens produced on their previous runs, and they are both going quicker. And it's now down to what Tom Coronel, Norbert Michaelis, Nicky Katzberg, Rob Huff, Thiago Montero can do, and they're all coming streaming towards the line. Ivan first down Dottinger Her. 1 minute 27.0 inside. 1 minute 27.0? Sector 1. 8 minutes 41.1 for Chilton, his fastest lap.
Coronel is quicker, but of course the last sector is probably the better one for the Citroen.
Yep. Ivan really fighting the car there. And even the mighty Citroen just struggling for a bit of traction there. Comes across the line. He is second. Best of a 10-minute down to an 8-minute 39.1, but that is not enough to beat Lopez. Muller will stay second. Michelis goes third. Coronel goes third.
That's an amazing lap.
That's a brilliant lap from Tom Coronel. He might have had a good old toe there down the Dottinger Her off Norby. Huff goes ahead in 6th position, doesn't get past Chilton. Katzberg, well, Tarquini and Bernani come across the line. Bernani 8th. Montero down to 9th, Tarquini 10th, Björk 11th, and Björk goes 6th, right in the middle of the pack for both races. Montero will start on the opening race pole at the moment. Sabine Schmitz gets up to 14th, ahead of John Philippi. And it's about Lopez. Where is he? On the Dottinger Her. Purple, 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 purple. Qualifying record is 8 minutes 37.327. His previous best 8:38.229. 9 tenths away. Has he found more? Has he found close to the second he needs to break the record? Lopez comes to the flag, and Thiago Montero comes across the line in 10th place. Jose Maria Lopez will start the main race from pole position. A new faster lap, 8 minutes 35.5. He has broken the qualifying record by nearly 2 seconds. He is 3.5 seconds quicker on that lap than teammate Ivan Muller. Tom Coronel in 3rd place, 4.5 behind, and the last flying lap will come from Nicky Katzberg. Jose Maria Lopez has just sliced 1.9 seconds out of the qualifying record with a barely credible 8-minute 35.5 lap. And Nicky Katzberg now on to Dottinger Her. 8th place for him. Well, he can't slow down and somehow make himself 10th. So the only thing he can try and do is get onto row 2 of the grid by going 3rd or 4th. Green lap all the way up to sector 4, where he lost time on his previous best, but it was on the final sector as he was just coming out of the fast left-hand kink here that he saw brief flashes of yellow flags, just had to lift tantalizingly close to a quicker lap because the tire marks you see there led to his teammate Ugo Valente clattering hard into the barriers. It was just enough, I think, to rob Katzberg of a second row start. Is this lap going to get him in there? I'm not sure it's quite quick enough. It might be 4th, 5th. He comes across the line in 6th position. Just didn't quite have it in sector 4. That got away from him. Sector 5, not a better lap for him either. Maybe he'd already realised that the car just didn't have it left in it. But nevertheless, Tom Chilton in 5th, Nicky Katzberg in 6th, will be in the middle of the pack for both races.
Very good lap from Katzberg.
Tommy, the last time you did that, you spun. Do not do that on the Nordschleife. There must be some kind of FIA fine for that, surely.
Yeah.
And Ugo Valente, 13th position, the end result of his qualifying, I'm afraid. Thiago Monteiro 10th, Mehdi Benani 9th, and they will start our opening race here on the front row of the grid. Thiago on pole, Mehdi 2nd, Rob Huff 3rd, Ted Bjork 4th.
He's an unbelievable lap. I mean, from standout performance of Coronel, he's massively sort of gone against the form book there to get onto the second row. And I mean, Lopez's lap, I mean, absolutely unbelievable. 3.5 seconds ahead of Van Muller, his teammate. And the other thing is, he didn't need to do that.
No.
He already knew he was on pole at that point. Ivan had crossed the line 3-4 seconds before, but you know that's not what Pachito's all about. Stunning lap.
Well, for those of you who are raging against your TVs at us talking over what Tom Coronel was saying, we could barely hear it. I'm sure you would barely have heard it. Go and find him on social media. God knows it's not going to be hard. Look on YouTube. That'll be on YouTube probably before you get your search engine fired up. Go and find his Twitter account, whatever. He will be there. So, is that Pachito's dad? I think it is. So there's Victoire anyway, his fiancée. Absolutely delighted with that. That was a stunning lap from Jose Maria Lopez. Absolutely. Another. He went to the top draw of qualifying laps. I mean, look at the smile on Yves Maton's face. That tells you how good a performance that was. And for Ivan, well, okay, it's not a track he likes. He's going to start 2nd. However, this is almost like Monza in the old days, pre-chicane days. The last place you want to be on Dottinger Her on the final lap is just in front of your teammate.
Definitely.
Could be a final sort out at the end of both of our races. Jose Maria Lopez just taking a moment to unclench his buttocks from the seat material, I imagine, after that lap. An 8-minute 35.5. The previous qualifying record set by him last year, 8 minutes 37.3, 1.8 seconds quicker.
Yeah. He'll know that that's world class. He'll know that that was unbeatable today.
There's not many days he's not world class. I can't remember really seeing a day where he's just been off the boil.
That's probably one of the best laps of his career.
Yeah. You know, to take pole by such a margin is not usual anywhere else, clearly, because the circuits are so much shorter. To take pole here in any category against multiple world champions is demanding. And to take it by such a margin of improvement over your performance from the previous season as well. And that's a big, big feather in his cap.
You can see how much it means to him.
Yeah. That's why it took a while to get out of the car, why he's taking a moment to get his helmet off and talk to Alex Legui. Because this is one of those I've got something in my eye moments, I think, for Jose Maria Lopez. In fact, he's still so amped up on adrenaline, he can't even get his own helmet off. And that, you know, that is part of it. Marie-Pierre Rossi trying to nail jelly to the ceiling. Everybody wants a piece of the world champion, and Marie-Pierre wants to make sure the team can do their job and refuel the car for Mach 3. Talking of which, surely they've got to take Chilton. Bernani was, in the end, managed to get 8th fastest, but he's like 6 or 8 seconds off the pace. Well,
Pachito, Jose Maria Lopez, you are the poleman for the main race. That was a ridiculous lap. You are 2 seconds quicker than you were last year. You've broken the qualifying record. That was world class.
I enjoyed it a lot, and I found out the confidence in the last 2 runs. And you know, this is a teamwork. It's not only me. You know, of course, we try to do the best. I try to do my best, but also, you know, when I feel comfortable with the car in this kind of track, you know, it's very important. So it was a very good lap, and I had already the confidence that I was in P1. So I knew, you know, maybe I could try a little bit more. And sometimes you try more, but it doesn't come. But I think with the low fuel, in the end, everything came together, and yeah, it was a fantastic lap. I really enjoyed it.
Very exciting start to the weekend.
Thank you.
Fantastic effort from Pachito Lopez. And yeah, sometimes you try harder, it doesn't come. That time it really did come for him. He claims an outstanding pole position here for our main race at the Nürburgring. Schloss Nürburg looking down on the track that carries its name, the Nürburgring, as we get ready for the start of Mach 3 in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. The pit lane will open for the first of our teams to go out. That'll be the 3 factory... That won't be the 3 factory Ladas because there's only 2 of them left. So Lada will not partake in Mach 3. Over to you in the truck. What's going to happen next? Because I'm fed up of second-guessing the way these things are going to work, because every time I go with logic, they seem to come up with another way of doing it, which seems perfectly normal to them and nonsensical to everybody else. There won't be a Lada team, which then means Honda must be ready earlier, or Mach 3 will start later. Pit lane opens in 3 minutes 36 seconds. However, Honda will have back-timed their preparation based on the assumption that they should be going out second and not first. So are we going to have a 3-minute 30 pause before Honda go out at their normal scheduled time? Or was Marie-Pierre correct to try and hurry things up at Citroën to make sure that they were ready 3.5 minutes beforehand in case, because she's already done the maths and said, okay, Volante's Lada is wrecked, they won't be taking part in Mach 3, so we're going to go with only 2 teams. So in fact they could take Bernani and still be second at worst, because Lada won't start in Mach 3. Well, let's get down to the Honda team. Alex is with Thiago Monteiro.
It's been quite an up and down weekend for Honda, but hey, poleman for opening race, happy days?
Yeah, it's definitely better than to be back in the middle of the pack, you know. Pole is a pole, especially on a track like this with only 3 laps. Last year I started on pole. It was difficult to hold up to the Citroëns. Hopefully this year we can give a better fight. and yeah, I'm definitely quite satisfied with that. Yeah.
You also have the weather, in theory, could be on your side. If it rains tomorrow and you're sitting at the front, that could be good.
Definitely. I mean, if it rains, as you can imagine, you don't see anything when you're in the middle of the pack, and so to be first, it will be definitely a small advantage. Yeah.
You're just about to head out for Mach 3. I believe Lada will not be starting, so you guys will be going out first. What's your strategy? How different is it here at the Nürburgring?
Yeah, a little bit more cautious, maybe, you know, and of course, time the perfect slipstream at the last straight line. So it is a tricky exercise here.
How was
Well, now, what could happen is you might end up beating Citroën. The flip side of that is you might really end up wrecking some cars. We've already had an all-nighter from the Honda boys to get Rob Huff's car back together. What they don't want is another one in the barriers. And of course, when you're following your teammates, you lose vision here, and you lose from a standing start, and not a single lap of the modern Grand Prix circuit either. A single lap of the gesamte Strecke, the whole track, the Grand Prix circuit, and a full lap of the Nordschleife, the Northern Loop, the 1927 track, which is still used predominantly for the Nürburgring 24-hour race this weekend, and also, of course, for us here with the World Touring Car Championship. Martin Haven, Richard Coleman in the booth, Alex Le Guy down in pit lane and on track. First of our two teams, because of a crash for Ugo Valente in qualifying. His car is badly damaged, and therefore there are only two remaining Ladas, not enough to make up a team of three. So Lada have been forced to withdraw from the Mach 3, and that means that Honda will go head-to-head with Citroën in what has been a bit of a tough on and off-track weekend for Honda. They could really do without any major snafus here. Norbert Michelis, Rob Huff and Thiago Montero left the pit lane, and Richard, they go around the Grand Prix loop, get the tyres up to temperature, get everything ready, and then we'll come back and start three abreast on the start-finish line.
Absolutely. I think it might be a slightly cautious approach, as we were saying before, Martin, from Honda. Without Lada being here, they know they're guaranteed to get the second points, or points per second, should I say. And, you know, therefore, I think there's no sense in these guys risking the car. Rob Huff had a very big accident yesterday, and it meant that the whole crew were there all night. They didn't go back to the hotel last night. And I'm sure they'll be keen to just try and have normal preparations tonight and get the guys to bed ahead of a long race day tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely right. And the team will certainly relish getting back to their hotel. Now, the finish line here is a very long way from the start line. The finish line is almost as you exit the final corner, just where the big tower is there. The finish line is right here. However, the start line is a long way further up the pit straight, and so you saw there that Norby was sort of slowing down, and then, oh, hang on a minute, there's no one there to mark the spot where we start. That is where they will start. So we'll start at the start line, and they will come back to the finish line, and time will elapse there, I imagine. And on other tracks, we do two entire laps, so if they start on the start line, that's where they finish as well. Now, the nominated time-setting driver, who will be the third of the three cars, is Norbert Michelis. Three Hondas on the line, ready for the start of the single lap Mach 3 here at the Nürburgring. Rob Huff closest to us, Thiago Montero on the outside. They will try and filter into the first corner, 1-2, with Norbert Michelis between them as the third of the cars. Red lights are on and away we go. Even start from everybody. Oh dear, Rob Huff fluffed that one rather. Now, Norby was nominated as the time-setting driver, which means he should have been the third into the first corner. However, he leads them with Thiago second and Rob third. Now, traditionally on the shorter circuits, Richard, 2 laps, it's the guy who's in third place who is unlikely to overtake the two in front and will therefore be the last one across the line. However, here, with the mile and a half or 3/4, whatever it is, of dotting a her, the guy at the back will probably end up being the guy at the front by the end of the lap.
Yeah, there is that, and I think that could well be why they've gone with this way. They don't want to lose too much time off the start. So it'll be interesting to sort of see where they make the swap, but obviously that would probably be the ideal way if no mistakes are made through the lap.
Well, we have seen mistakes made by drivers before. Remember back in Paul Ricard when Rob fluffed the start and didn't get away quite quickly enough, and he was saying, tell the guys, keep pushing, you know, from a half a second to a second back on the track at Magny-Cours, at Paul Ricard rather. He reckoned he was still getting a tow. Here, when you're the guy at the back, actually you almost want to back off your teammates as you get out onto the Nordschleife, because you want to have as much vision of where you're going as you possibly can, more so than any other circuit, because there's so much to be taking in and so much you've got to get right, and you can make up so much on dotting a her on the autobahn that finishes the lap that actually it almost doesn't matter if you're a second behind them here. It might be a better thing. That might well be what Rob Huff's decided to do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. I think through this section now you've got one or two things. They need that space to be able to see, make your own lines, or you've got to put blind trust in your teammate and just follow his brake lights through the entire loop.
Through the Hatzenbach. And Sabine Schmitz was telling us a little earlier that the Kittelbacher her that they're just approaching has been changed. She reckons it's quite a lot quicker. Nearly flat now in the GT3 cars that are the fastest class in the N24. And then you get this long, fast run through Schwedenkreuz and up towards Arenberg. Again, you know, so much the nature of the circuit, just in that one shot alone, a huge elevation changes.
And you really don't appreciate that on the camera, but there are some huge climbs and drops on this circuit. It really is like a roller coaster through the forest.
There is the Citroën team. They are coming round to start their lap.
Of course, the circuit's so big here, there's no danger of them even seeing another Honda or even hearing one.
Yeah, well, you could nearly start a dozen manufacturers' teams here. There's so much room to play with. 15.8 miles, 25.28 kilometres. It's an unfeasibly large track by any standards. Even in a properly quick road car, it's a 10-minute lap, well driven. Red lights are on for the three Citroëns. Mehdi Benani on the right is the third of the drivers in Mach 3, along with Ivan Muller and Jose Maria Lopez. And as the Hondas continue on their lap, away go the Citroëns. Good start from Benani on the inside, a little better maybe than he might have been thinking. What they don't need is for him to be taking the lead, so he immediately withdraws his nose from the first corner. Muller and Lopez going into corners 1 and 2, the short version of the first corner chicane.
I think Jose was expecting to lead the pack there.
Yeah, I think Muller just closed the door on him going, no. If somebody's going to be unsighted or in turbulent air over some of these jumps, it's not me.
I think...
little rehearsal there maybe for the first and second race start.
Yeah, I think the teams have to nominate their third driver on the Friday. I think that's why Benani is here, because if you'd chosen it on the sort of form of the weekend, I think you definitely would have chosen Tom Chilton to be the third Citroën this weekend.
Norbert Mikulits pulling away from Thiago Montero and Rob Huff on board with Huffy. Now see how little of the road in front you can see. And we're on the run. I was going to say we're on the run down towards Adenau. I think we still are here. Or are we on the climb back out up the other side? I think we are on the climb out from Adenau up towards the high point at Breitscheid. One of many high points on this track. As well as the big spectator enclosure, you can see a lot of the marshals posts have got campsites beside them. Flat out, foot on the boards there, as out off the Grand Prix circuit and into the Hatzenbach come the Citroën trio. So, first lap, split one, only lap, split one, 2 minutes 17. As they got to the chicane at the end of the Grand Prix circuit from a standing start for the Hondas. 2 minutes 8 for the Citroens.
You don't respect the rule. It's like this.
Yeah, okay, stay like this, they're saying. So Citroen with an 8.4 second advantage from a standing start on the Grand Prix circuit alone.
That's incredible.
That's unbelievable. Honda already out of timing sector 3, which means they've got from Bergwerk through Kesselchen, and they're heading down to the Caracciola carousel. And you saw the way that Lopez was tucked up under Muller's back bumper. Lopez is going to see what taking air away from the rear of one of the cars is going to do, and he'll let Muller find that out. Okay, I think this is on the run out from the carousel, through her up.
Norby to slow down, Norby needs to slow down.
Don't think Norby does. Still going to get a monster tow from Norby. I think Thiago might need to speed up a little though. Yeah, look at the jumps and the crests here. This is through Wipperman, Brunchen, Flansgarten, the really demanding roller coaster ride to end them all. Here the cars, revs going over all these little crests and jumps. Yeah, there are 3 big named jumps there, but there are half a dozen places where the car's just freewheeling in air, momentarily losing traction.
Interesting to know. Yeah, I think Norby is just slightly getting out of throttle to allow Montero and Huff. Of course, he's got to be the last car to cross the line.
Well, he doesn't have to be. Don't have to be. That's sort of the way you've nominated it, but time is measured on whoever the last car across the line is. You know, in Paul Ricard, if Norby was the nominated driver but Rob stalled, Rob's always going to be the last car across the line. You don't measure it from whoever you said would be last. Now let's see where the slipstream works, is how close is Rob going to get? He's not got much.
Stay in position and go, go, go. Stay in position, go, go, go.
It's just 3 cars. What you say you anticipate happening and what actually happens are largely different things. Thiago is closing right up behind Norby, and Rob is now starting to reel in Thiago Montero as well. Look how much closer Thiago is behind Norby, and that might affect the 2 Hondas as they come nose to tail, and Rob is slingshotting right up behind them. Look how close they are now at the end of that mile and a bit of Autobahn compared to how far apart they were as they came out of Schwalbenschwanz. Across the line, the checkered flag, and they complete it in 8 minutes 47.9 from a standing start. That's not a bad lap either. There's a few drivers who would have liked to have got one of those from a flying start.
Exactly.
Well, Citroën were 8.4 ahead on the Grand Prix loop, 8.2 seconds ahead after Sector 2, 7.3 ahead after Sector 3. But again, as you can see, Bernani really coming up deep there under braking as they come into, well, that's out of Klostertal into the right-hander before the Caracciola carousel. Doesn't have a name there. Out of the carousel they come, and suddenly Bernani is right with them now. Did his teammates just ease it off a little bit? Did Lopez allow Muller to get away so he could give Bernani a tow? I don't think Bernani needed that much of assistance. The Dottinger Her is their ace in the hole. It's so long.
Maybe they slightly overcooked that.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to judge the gaps, particularly on a circuit like this with so many twists and turns.
I think you just have to go hell for leather until you get to the mini carousel and make an adjustment there if you feel your teammate is too far behind.
Yeah.
But again, you know, you can come from a million miles back, as we saw last year in the races, and still hoover them up down the straight. And Bernani is well within towing distance on Dottinger Her from there.
Yeah, he's probably got the perfect gap now, actually.
Yeah. He can see where he's going. And this is the sector of all where if you are a wheel out of line, then you're in the barriers having a very big shunt. And suddenly Lopez has slowed, and Bernani is in danger of running up the back of him. Which means that if they're that close coming on to Dottinger Her, Bernani's going to end up having to pass Lopez at some stage before the final couple of corners.
Yeah, he's well within the toe there.
Yeah. However, Muller is pulling away. They're coming up. This is the swallowtail. You can see the V shape there of the two corners around the mini carousel, which they drop into now. So that's Schwalbenschwanz. And then this.
Please go to mix one. Mix one, please.
Okay. That's full juice, surely.
Just getting ready for the very, very long straight section.
Yes, please, mix one, please. Okay.
Okay. So they're on the Dottinger Her. You can see the main road on the left of your picture.
Keep mix one and see the finish line.
And the support road on the right-hand side.
Save fuel.
All right, so they're leaning it off.
Okay.
They've also got a massive amount of time in hand at the moment.
Important to save fuel. Do they run that little in Mach 3 that they might be in danger of not having 3 litres in the tank for scrutineering after qualifying? Seems quite bizarre. The differential, by the way, at the end of timing sector 3 appears to be 7.3, 7.3 at the end of timing sector 4. So as you say, they can pretty much just breeze their way down.
Switch off the boost and save fuel. Do some pickup.
Wow.
Belt and braces. Citroën win Mach 3. No, they don't. They go to 1.5 seconds behind in second place. Honda take victory. Well,
I think that's very much a result of the fuel saving that Citroën had to get into towards the end there.
Why?
I wonder if they didn't put enough in for the refuel.
Why? Why didn't they put enough in?
Well,
they know they've only got to do one lap. No,
you look at the look on the pit wall. Something's gone on there. You look at the look on the pit wall. Somebody somewhere has forgotten or made an error. Maybe it was to do with Lopez's car in the winner's area. I don't know.
That might, yes.
How did it go? Yeah, we finished P2. P2, 2 seconds behind Honda.
Yes, interesting that it was Pichito's radio we were hearing, not Mehdi's, not Ivan's, and it was his car that Marie-Pierre was trying to make sure they got the fuel into. Maybe they did short fuel it and realised that they weren't going to have enough left to have the required amount for scrutineering post-qualifying. So there's the result of Mach 3 with Norbert Michelitz, Rob Huff and Thiago Monteiro claiming victory for Honda. Well, it just goes to prove that Citroën are indeed human. If they did not put quite enough fuel into Jose Maria Lopez's car, that would indicate why they were having a fuel save and turn it right. We were assuming map 1 was full boost, whereas in fact it was fully lean. So they were leaning the car right off, turning the boost right down to make sure that you have to have 3 litres in the tank for sampling, don't you, at the end? Minimum of 3 litres. And as you'll appreciate when you're filling up, that's not even a 5-litre can of fuel difference between being legal and not legal.
And that's so the organisers can just check and make sure that the fuel is all legal and they have enough volume to be able to run all the tests in the laboratories that they need. And yeah, they mandate 3 litres must be left in the tank.
And of course, that's not just for Mach 3, that would also apply to all your qualifying times, which would mean you would start, if there wasn't enough fuel in the car, Lopez would start last on the grid because he effectively wouldn't have set a qualifying time. So there's a very major penalty to be paid there. Well, Alex is with our Honda team.
Are you sure?
Just interrupt you guys. Well done, Mach 3 winners. Congratulations.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
You all looked a little bit confused then about that.
The timing was we didn't know the sector times from the Citroën, but I think we did a really good job, huh?
Yeah.
I think we.
Yeah, well done, guys.
Yeah, we kept it close. We kept it clean.
Yeah, I think that.
Talk us through the lap.
Well, the lap was good. I think it was a very similar rhythm until sector 4, where I've been struggling all weekend there. So Norby took a little bit of a gap. He was starting to push a bit. So okay, I keep my rhythm. I cannot destroy the car. And then in the end, Norby lifted off. So we have a perfect gap on the long straight line. I think it was a good timing, yeah? Yep. Very good.
Nice top speed.
Fastest time, yeah, fastest I've been down that straight.
What's it like driving as a trio around the Nordschleife?
It's fun. I mean, in front it's quite, it's quite easy, but
easy job.
yeah, but I can imagine driving behind through Schwedenkreuz, through corners with 230, 240, close to the bumper.
A little bit. It's not so much, but you feel something. I mean, you feel a lack of downforce a little bit, and there's always something in front of you. So, you know, it's like the race here last year was similar. So we'll be okay.
A bit more positive for Honda then.
Yeah, very good. We've got to go. We've got to drive the cars
finally.
back, but brilliant.
Well done, boys.
You see, there's another aspect of it. We've got to drive the cars back because the garages are full of 24-hour racing machinery. So Honda end up on top of Mach 3. Citroën seem to have fumbled, but just slightly there in Mach 3. They end up in second. Lada didn't partake. They didn't have enough cars in one piece. And that concludes proceedings from the Nürburgring for today for the World Touring Car Championship and the European Touring Car Cup. Don't forget, tomorrow's races get underway in the late morning. So our first of 2 moments of track action, 2 3-lap races. The opening race starts at 11:20 and we will go straight into the second race right after that, which starts at 12:45 Central European Time.